Warning, censorship. Warning, censorship.
Rebel News is currently fighting Justin Trudeau's COVID jails policy in court right now. It's a huge battle, and we need your help to keep fighting. However, today is one of those very rare days in my job at Rebel News where we are not completely alone in the battle for freedom. I've just gotten out of virtual court. Today and for the next 3 days, the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms and Rebel News lawyers are challenging the constitutionality of Justin Trudeau's heinous COVID jail system. Now, the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms is representing 11 clients from all across the country, and Rebel News lawyers are representing Cian Bexte, our former Rebel News journalist who was taken into a COVID jail completely against his will when he re-entered the country of his birth after doing some journalism for us down in Florida. But first, let's go back a little to lay the groundwork for how these COVID jails came to be. Effective midnight, January 7th, 2021, the federal government, through an order in council, the government version of a stroke of a pen, so this thing didn't go before Parliament, suddenly required a negative COVID test be presented to an airline prior to getting on a flight to come back home to Canada. And that test had to be conducted within 72 hours of departure of the airline. Now, that wasn't good enough. So fast forward 6 weeks. Justin Trudeau wakes up one day and decides that Canadians need to have a second COVID test upon arrival. And when they get here, they have to be quarantined for 3 days in a federally approved hotel or facility at their expense while waiting for those second test results to come back. This obviously caused confusion and chaos for thousands of Canadians who were out of the country. It violated their Section 6 charter rights to be able to move inside and outside of the country freely. It forced many Canadians to cut their trips abroad short so that they could avoid quarantine. And it caused some essential workers to be taken into quarantine hotels that were way over market value for their stay. So it clearly caused financial hardship for many. Now, Rebel News is fighting these quarantine restrictions with the support of our generous viewers at home and our incredible legal team at nocovidjails.com. Chief Justice of the Federal Court, Paul Crampton, is hearing arguments today. Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms lawyers Henna Palmer and Sayan Hassan are making charter arguments on behalf of their clients, all of whom are Canadian citizens who left the country under one set of rules, and while they were gone, the rules just changed. One of their clients is a water bomber pilot, so he's a completely essential worker, but when he came home, he was detained arbitrarily. Another one of their clients left the country for dental surgery, an essential reason for travel, and yet he was detained in a COVID jail when he came back. And many of you will remember the case of Nicole Mathis. She was detained in Calgary upon returning to the country after completing some church mission work. She was taken to a COVID jail, and her family had no clue where she was or what was happening to her. Now, Justice Center lawyer Hassan referenced the reported sexual assault at one of the COVID jails, saying that this violates Section 7 of the Charter Protections of Life, Liberty, and Security of Person. Hassan also said that in government submissions, government lawyers were attempting to minimize known COVID outbreaks. There have been at least 3 in these COVID jails by saying that the outbreaks were limited to just the staff. Hassan argued that the government doesn't make the same argument when outbreaks happen in other facilities under their control, like schools. They don't make the distinction between students and teachers when counting an outbreak in a school. They just close the school. So why didn't they close these COVID jails? Hassan detailed the difference between people arriving by air versus land. In 1 week, 46,000 people arrived by air and nearly 182,000 arrived by land. And yet air travelers were the only ones snatched by the government off to these COVID jails. And the restrictions currently only apply to roughly 25% of international travelers. And the restrictions are all done at the discretion of border agents, making the detentions happening to Canadian citizens completely arbitrary. Nobody knows what to expect when they land. We also heard arguments that there is not one shred of evidence that these variants of concern, that the quarantine measures are allegedly designed to target have entered the country through air travel. So again, why were air travelers the only travelers being detained arbitrarily on the basis of preventing these so-called variants of concern? We also heard arguments today that people who have been snatched into these COVID jails facilities have been denied the ability to get in touch with their lawyers without delay, yet another violation of their charter rights. People being taken into COVID jails are not being told that they have a right to speak to a lawyer. Courts in recess now for lunch, and after lunch, Rebel News lawyers are up. I'll be live tweeting as I go. I'll be doing my best to keep up, and I'll be bringing you a quick video update once our terrific lawyers are done at the end of the day. If you would like to help Rebel News fight the full force of the federal government and Justin Trudeau's bad ideas and the federal government's limitless resources and endless lawyers to try to put an end to these arbitrary and illegal detentions of completely innocent and often completely healthy, law-abiding Canadians, please donate today at nocovidjails.com. For Rebel News, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. Right now and for the next 3 days, Rebel News lawyers join the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms in federal court. We are fighting for an end to the COVID jail system. To donate today to help fund our legal battle against the endlessly deep pockets of the federal government and all their lawyers, please donate today at nocovidjails.com.